Welcome to the deep dive. We take stacks of sources, research, all that stuff, and boil it down to what really matters. And today we're diving deep into a challenge that, honestly, it plagues almost every English learner I know. It's that elusive quest for perfect grammar. It causes so much anxiety. If you've ever found yourself mentally rehearsing sentences before you dare say them out loud,
Mm.
or agonizing over whether it should be on or at, or feeling that horrible wave of shame after just one tiny slip up,
Uh,
then you know exactly who we're talking about. It's that grammar perfectionist inside us all, this internal editor, this persona. It runs on this one deeply flawed belief that perfect grammar is the absolute key to fluency, the only key.
right.
And here's the kicker. Our sources suggest that belief isn't just wrong, it's actually the biggest thing holding you back, the biggest obstacle on your language journey. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah. And what's fascinating here is that this isn't just, a personal failing or some random quirk you have. This is a really deeply ingrained mindset. It's been cultivated often over years, and it genuinely traps learners.
Traps them.
Yeah. And to truly escape this grammar trap, we first really need to understand its foundations, like how it was built, the psychology behind it, even the way we were taught. Only then can we, start to actually dissolve the cage.
Dissolving the page. I like that image. It's powerful. But it makes me wonder, how did we even get into this trap? Where did this intense focus on perfect grammar actually come from for so many people?
Well, a huge piece of it starts early, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Our sources point straight to what we're calling the ghost of the classroom,
Okay.
that lingering legacy of the red pen. Just think back to your early English lessons for a second. For a lot of people, language wasn't really taught as a living thing, a tool for communication.
Right.
It was treated more like an academic subject, like math or biology, often through something called the grammar translation method.
Ah, I remember that. Lots of rules.
Exactly. The emphasis was always on learning the rules first, then maybe communicating later.
Hmm.
So you might have spent weeks, literally weeks, on the present perfect tense, memorizing its structure, all the abstract rules.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're in a real conversation. Someone asks, "What did you do last weekend?"
Mm.
And your brain just freezes.
Totally. Trying to remember Rule 3B.
Yeah, running through all those rules you memorized long before you ever got a chance to just use it spontaneously.
Right.
And the feedback you got, it was all about finding errors.
Right. Oh, yeah, the red ink everywhere.
Exactly. Your test came back covered in red, highlighting every single mistake.
Yeah.
And that red mark, it wasn't framed as, oh, here's a chance to learn.
No, it felt like failure.
It was presented as a defect,
Yeah.
a symbol of failure.
Yeah.
And this method also pushed this idea that, every English word had a perfect direct translation, which created this false sense of language as just a simple code to crack. This whole educational legacy, our sources are pretty clear. It leaves a deep psychological scar. We end up carrying this inner red pen around with us.
That's such a good way to put it.
And we criticize ourselves far more harshly than any real listener ever would.
That inner red pen is so relatable. It's like we've really internalized that classroom vibe, and it feels like that constant self-checking must tie into the psychological side of this trap too, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly where the psychology of perfectionism kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
This grammar trap is a really powerful manifestation of perfectionism, and it's driven by this deep-seated fear of being judged.
Ah.
The perfectionist believes, often subconsciously, that if they can just achieve flawless grammar, they'll be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Safe from criticism. They have this image of native speakers just listening for mistakes, ready to pounce,
Right.
convinced that one little error will brand them as, unintelligent or incompetent.
Yeah.
And this fear, it leads to something called cognitive hypervigilance.
Hypervigilant.
Yeah. So instead of actually focusing on the message, on the conversation, your mental energy is just consumed by self-monitoring, editing, criticizing yourself in real time. You're agonizing internally. Should I use will or going to, wait, what's the rule again? Or did I use the right preposition? On or at? Oh, no, I think it was at.
That sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting. This constant internal monologue, it turns every single conversation into a high-stakes performance. It's a recipe for anxiety. The only outcomes feel like flawless victory or humiliating defeat. And since flawless victory is basically impossible.
You're always feeling like you failed.
Exactly. It traps you in this perpetual cycle of perceived failure.
That perceived failure feels so key there. It's like
Okay.
we're imagining this critical audience that isn't actually there, or at least not in the way we think. We picture them as grammar critics, with little notebooks. But is that really how native speakers listen? This is where it gets really interesting, actually. Because the final part of this trap, it's built on a huge misunderstanding of how native speakers actually process language. It's the myth of the grammar police.
Right, the non-existent police force.
Exactly. Learners often imagine native speakers are like checking their linguistic passport at every sentence. But the reality, according to all our research, is that the vast majority of native speakers are not grammar police. They are meaning detectives.
Meaning detectives, I like that.
Yeah. When a native speaker listens to you, their brain is doing something really cooperative, actually quite empathetic. They're not listening for mistakes, they're listening for meaning. Their subconscious goal is simply to understand your message.
Mhm.
Our sources show they automatically filter out most minor errors. So if you say, for example, I go to the store yesterday, a native speaker's brain doesn't usually get stuck on the go instead of went. It instantly gets the meaning, yesterday I went to the store, and the conversation just moves on. They're way more interested in what you did at the store than the tense you used.
Makes sense. Communication over correction.
Totally. Plus, most native speakers really value the effort and courage it takes. They're often genuinely impressed by anyone communicating in a second language. They see you as an ally, not someone to judge. And let's be honest, even native speakers break grammar rules constantly in casual speech,
All the time.
using fragments, ending sentences with prepositions, tons of filler words. Perfect grammar is largely a myth, even for them, outside of really formal stuff. So you see, this cage, it's built from flawed teaching methods, this crippling fear, and a totally false image of the listener. But the door, it's been open the whole time.
And the cost of staying inside that open cage is very real. It often goes completely unnoticed, but this obsession with perfect grammar, it actively sabotages your journey towards fluency. One of the immediate consequences is analysis paralysis. We sometimes call it the hesitation virus.
Ooh, the hesitation virus.
Yeah, trying to consciously apply all those complex rules in real time, it just leads to slow, hesitant speech. There's this significant lag between your thought and actually saying it. It's like trying to consciously control every single muscle movement while you're riding a bike. You just fall over it.
Constantly, yeah.
Because fluent movement is intuitive, it's subconscious. And it's the same with fluent speech. If you're too busy analyzing how to speak, you can barely speak at all.
You get totally stuck in your head.
Exactly. And another consequence is unnatural robotic speech. When you build sentences based purely on rules rather than an intuitive feel for the language, the result often sounds really artificial. It lacks natural rhythm.
Like reading from a textbook.
Precisely. You might choose an overly formal word, like therefore, instead of just so in a normal chat.
Right.
Or you construct these long, grammatically perfect sentences that'd be great in an essay, but they're just unwieldy in a fast-paced conversation. You're so focused on getting the words right that you completely miss the music of the language, the natural flow, the intonation. Your speech can become this kind of Frankenstein's monster of a sentence, anatomically correct, but totally lifeless. It lacks flow and soul.
Lifeless. Wow, that image really sticks. It paints a picture of speech that might be technically correct, but just completely ineffective. And I imagine that lack of effectiveness, that feeling of not really connecting, must have a huge impact on your confidence, right?
Huge, absolutely. And that leads to perhaps the most damaging consequence, the confidence killer. It spirals into what we call the spiral of silence.
Okay, break that down. Spiral of silence.
Yeah, it's this vicious cycle. You set this impossible goal, perfect grammar, then inevitably you fail when you make a mistake.
Right.
You interpret that failure not as a learning step, but as proof of your own inadequacy. See, I knew I was bad at this. So your confidence plummets. Anxiety goes up, which of course makes you more likely to hesitate and make more mistakes.
Oh, no.
Which reinforces that belief that you're just bad at English. And round it goes. This cycle ultimately leads to avoidance. You start shying away from speaking opportunities.
Staying quiet in meetings.
Exactly. Avoiding social events where you might have to speak English. The trap eventually just silences you. And without practice, obviously, your speaking skills stagnate, or they can even decline.
So what does this all mean then? It sounds like the ultimate irony of this whole grammar trap is that in your desperate quest for perfect communication, you actually end up becoming a worse communicator.
That's exactly it. It's the core paradox.
Because true communication, it's about more than just grammatically correct sentences, right? It's connection, it's active listening, empathy, just being present in the conversation. And The grammar perfectionist can't really be present. They're trapped inside their own head, constantly grading their own performance.
Mm.
So they miss social cues, they lack spontaneity, they might come across as distant or distracted because they're busy analyzing their last sentence. By prioritizing grammatical form over that human connection, they fail at the most fundamental goal of using language in the first place.
So, okay, if perfect grammar is truly a trap, what should the goal be instead? What should learners be striving for? Well, the escape really begins with a radical redefinition of that goal. We need to embrace something called communicative competence.
Communicative competence. Okay.
Yeah, this term was developed by linguists, people who recognize that simply knowing grammar rules isn't the same as actually being able to use language effectively in real life. It's a more holistic model. It captures what it truly means to be a fluent and effective speaker. And it's composed of four essential pillars.
Four pillars.
And grammar is just one of them. And often it's not even the most important one.
Yeah. Interesting. So grammar is just one piece of the puzzle. Can you break down those four pillars for us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So pillar one is grammatical competence. This is the foundation, knowing the vocabulary, the sentence structure, the sounds, knowing how to form understandable sentences.
Okay, so grammar still matters.
It definitely matters. But the goal here isn't perfect grammar, it's functional grammar. Grammar that's good enough to convey your meaning clearly without causing a major communication breakdown. Think about I go yesterday. It's technically wrong, but is the meaning unclear?
Not at all. 100% clear.
Exactly. That's a minor, harmless error. Now, something like I no go yesterday store that could cause confusion.
Right, that's harder to parse.
So your grammar needs to be solid enough to support the building,
Well,
but it doesn't need to be polished to this impossible mirror shine. It just needs to work.
got it. Functional, not flawless. What's pillar two?
Pillar two is sociolinguistic competence. This is all about the art of appropriateness.
Appropriateness.
Yeah. Knowing how to adjust your language, your formality, how direct you are, your word choices for different social situations and different relationships. For example, knowing you probably shouldn't greet a potential client with, "What's up, dude?"
Probably not.
Or understanding that in some English-speaking cultures, a very direct "no, that's a bad idea" might come across as quite rude, even if grammatically perfect.
Okay, so it's about fitting the language to the context.
Exactly. Someone with perfect grammar, but zero sociolinguistic competence can seem really awkward or even rude. Whereas someone with slightly flawed grammar but excellent sociolinguistic skills, they'll likely be seen as polite, engaging, a pleasure to talk to. This often outweighs perfect grammar in how people perceive you as a communicator.
That makes a lot of sense. Pillar three.
Pillar three is discourse competence. This is the art of connection and flow. It's the ability to weave your sentences together into a coherent, logical whole. It's not just about producing individual correct sentences, it's about creating a clear flow of ideas.
So like telling a story or making an argument clearly.
Precisely. Using natural linking words so, because, however. Using pronouns correctly so people know who you're talking about. Using synonyms to avoid repetition. Organizing your thoughts so they're easy for the listener to follow. You could have 10 perfectly grammatical sentences, but if they're just dumped in a random order and don't connect logically,
Well, you haven't really communicated anything.
right, you've failed. This pillar is about being a good storyteller, a clear thinker in the language.
Okay, that's crucial. And the last one, pillar four.
And finally, pillar four is strategic competence. This is the art of survival and repair. And honestly, this might be the most crucial and yet the most overlooked skill for learners.
Survival and repair. Like a first aid kit.
Exactly. It's your conversational first aid kit. It's the ability to overcome communication problems and get your message across, even when you have gaps in your knowledge, like you forget a word or you don't understand something.
Okay, how does that work in practice?
Key strategies include circumlocution. That's describing around a word you've forgotten.
Ah, like if you forget scissors, you say, that thing for cutting paper.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
It has two handles you put your fingers in.
Mm.
You use the words you do know to get the meaning across. It also includes things like asking for clarification. Sorry, could you say that again? Or what does that word mean? Confirmation checks. So just to check I understood, you're saying that. And using fillers or gestures strategically to hold your place while you think without creating awkward silence.
Okay.
Strategic competence is what allows you to actually engage in real conversations before your grammar is perfect. It's the skill that truly enables practice and improvement on the fly.
Wow. Okay, that's a completely different way of looking at it. It's a huge shift in perspective. So your goal isn't speak with perfect grammar anymore. It's let me try, to be an effective and competent communicator who can clearly and appropriately convey a message,
Mhm.
connect with the listener, and strategically navigate any communication challenges that pop up.
You nailed it. That's the new empowered goal.
And that feels so much more achievable and realistic. It shifts the focus away from impossible perfection and back to actual connection.
Exactly. Which brings us to the practical steps. How do you actually do this? How do you rewire your brain and reorient your learning? Step one is absolutely foundational, the mindset shift.
Mhm.
You have to move from being that inner critic to becoming a curious explorer.
Inner critic to curious explorer. I like that.
You have to consciously work on silencing that punitive, grammar-obsessed voice inside your head. A key part of this is adopting the good enough principle. Consciously lower the bar. Your goal is simply to be understood, not to sound like Shakespeare.
Okay. Good enough is the new perfect.
Kind of.
Yeah.
You could even try implementing a mistake quota. Actively try to make a certain number of mistakes each day or week.
Really. Make mistakes on purpose.
Well, see them as a sign of bravery. A sign you're taking risks, pushing your boundaries. It reframes mistakes completely. And consciously reframe your listener. See them as your ally, someone who genuinely wants to understand you, not judge you. And finally, practice self-compassion. When you make a mistake, acknowledge it neutrally. Think, that's interesting. Wrong preposition there. Okay, noted. Treat yourself like you'd treat a friend who's learning.
Be kind to yourself. That's huge. Okay, mindset shift is step one. What's step two?
Step two is the input flood. This is how you learn grammar without obsessively studying rules.
Wait, learn grammar without studying rules. That sounds paradoxical.
It does, doesn't it? But the paradox is often true. The best way to improve your grammar intuitively is to stop focusing so much on the explicit rules. The key is massive, comprehensible input. Your brain is an incredible pattern recognition machine. Through lots and lots of exposure to language you mostly understand, your brain starts to subconsciously absorb the structures, the rhythms, the patterns. You start to feel that I'm interested in is correct. Not because you memorized a rule about prepositions after interested, but because you've heard it and read it thousands of times.
So you just soak it in.
Pretty much. Your action plan here is read extensively. Start with things slightly below your comfort level, like graded readers, just for pleasure. Then move towards authentic materials you enjoy. Listen constantly. Podcasts, audiobooks, music, fill your environment with the sound of natural English. And watch with purpose. Try watching shows or movies first with English audio and English subtitles. See the words as you hear them.
Okay.
Then try watching again with no subtitles at all, just training your ear. The goal is to build that powerful implicit knowledge, which is what you access in spontaneous speech.
Okay, so we've reset our mindset with step one, flooded our brains with input in step two. What's next for actually, getting out there and practicing speaking?
That brings us to step three, the output sandbox. You need to create a safe space for messy practice.
A sandbox, okay, where it's okay to make a mess.
Exactly. A judgment-free zone where you can experiment with the language without fear. A great way to do this is through self-talk.
Talking to yourself.
Yeah. Narrate your daily activities out loud in English. Okay, now I'm making coffee. I need to get the filter. It's the ultimate low-stakes practice. You're generating spontaneous speech. You'll make mistakes. You might correct yourself. You build fluency, and there's zero social risk.
That's clever. Any other sandbox ideas?
Another great one is a voice journal. Just record yourself speaking on your phone for maybe 1 or 2 minutes every day. Talk about your day, your thoughts, anything. You don't even have to listen back immediately, though you can later. The key is the act of producing the language regularly. And then there's journaling for flow, not perfection. Try writing a daily entry in English, but with one rule. You are not allowed to stop and edit while you write.
Just let it pour out.
Exactly. Just let your thoughts flow onto the page or screen. This helps build that connection between thought and written expression, bypassing the inner critic.
Okay, sandbox practice. Makes sense. And building on that idea of being a competent communicator, what was pillar 4 again? Strategic competence.
Right. So step 4 is actively building that. The strategic toolkit, mastering the art of communication repair.
Okay, so how do we practice that?
You actively work on your strategic competence. Practice circumlocution deliberately. Make it a game. Try describing common objects without using their names. Instead of panicking when a word escapes you in conversation, you'll have practiced describing it using words you do know.
Like for stapler, it's that thing you use to attach papers together. Metal. You press it down.
Perfect. It trains that mental muscle. And another thing is to drill your anchor phrases.
Anchor phrases.
Yeah, those phrases for clarification or managing the conversation. Things like, sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you repeat that, please? What does word mean? Yeah, hold on, let me think for a second. Practice these until they feel completely natural and automatic. They become your go-to responses when you feel a bit lost or need a moment, keeping the conversation flowing smoothly.
Right, so you have tools ready when you hit a bump. Okay, that's 4 steps. What's the last one?
Step 5 is crucial. The feedback loop, learning how to use correction intelligently. Getting feedback is essential, but how you ask for and receive it matters immensely.
Okay, so not just asking, was my grammar okay?
Definitely not. Stop asking the unproductive question, was my grammar perfect? That just invites your listener to put on their grammar police hat and focus only on errors. Instead, start asking better questions that align with communicative competence. Ask things like, was my message clear? That focuses on communication.
Right. Did you understand what I meant?
Exactly. Or, did that make sense? Which focuses on coherence. You could also ask, is there a more natural way to say what I just said?
Ah, that targets the sociolinguistic and flow aspects.
Precisely. Or, if you know you struggle with a specific area, like articles or prepositions, you could ask, I know I have trouble with articles. Did you notice any patterns in my mistakes with a and the?
It's much more specific and actionable.
Yes. It focuses on specific, recurring issues rather than just random errors. The key is to work with a coach, not a critic. Explain this new philosophy to your tutor, language partner, or even a patient friend. Say something like, hey, my main goal now is communicating effectively. Could we try something? Please don't interrupt me for every little grammar mistake while we're talking.
Okay.
Let's just have the conversation. And then at the end, maybe you could tell me if there was any point where my meaning was really unclear, or if you noticed a recurring error pattern that's getting in the way.
So it becomes collaborative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It transforms feedback from judgment into a collaborative process focused on improving overall communicative effectiveness, not just grammatical perfection.
Okay, these 5 steps, mindset shift, input flood, output sandbox, strategic toolkit, and the feedback loop that feels like a really practical framework for escaping the trap. But it's really crucial to clarify, right? This whole deep dive, it's not saying grammar is unimportant. Not at all.
Not at all. That would be swinging the pendulum too far the other way.
Right. It's about fighting the paralyzing obsession with it, the importance of grammatical accuracy. It really exists on a spectrum. And a truly competent communicator knows how to adjust their grammar precision dial, so to speak.
That's a great analogy, the precision dial.
Yeah. And there are definitely specific situations where you do need to turn that dial way up. High grammatical accuracy is critical sometimes. Like, first off, high-stakes formal writing. This is where the grammar police are very real and definitely on duty. We're talking about your resume, your CV, a cover letter, an academic thesis, legal contracts, maybe a major report for your boss or client.
Right. Places where errors really matter.
Exactly. In these contexts, your writing directly reflects your professionalism, your attention to detail. Errors can have serious negative consequences. So here, yes, absolutely right. Revise carefully, use grammar checking tools, maybe even get a native speaker to proofread if possible. Turn the dial up to 10.
Makes sense. What else?
Second, grammar becomes a priority when the errors actually get in the way of the core meaning. There's a huge difference between a harmless error, like saying, I am interested on this topic. Okay, wrong preposition, but everyone knows exactly what you mean.
Right, meaning is clear.
And a meaning-changing error, like accidentally saying, I have been boring since I started my new job, instead of, I have been bored.
Ooh, yeah, big difference. One describes you, one describes the job.
Exactly. That fundamentally changes the meaning and could even cause offense or misunderstanding. So your focus should definitely be on eliminating those types of errors that cause major breakdowns in comprehension.
Focus on clarity first.
Right. And finally, you might need to turn up the grammar dial a bit to address fossilized errors.
Fossilized errors, what are those?
These are those persistent, often subconscious errors that just stick around, even when you technically know the rule, like consistently dropping the S for third-person singular verbs in the present tense, saying he go instead of he goes.
Ah, those really ingrained habits.
Yeah, these errors can become a kind of hallmark of learner English, and they can sometimes hinder your progression to a truly advanced native-like level, if that's your goal. So it can be worth identifying 1 or 2 of your own personal fossilized errors and making a conscious effort to notice and correct them over time.
Okay, so targeted attention, not blanket perfectionism.
Exactly. The truly competent communicator doesn't just have one mode. perfect grammar on. They have that dial. They know how to turn the precision up for a formal report and maybe down to a 4 or 5 for a casual coffee chat. The grammar perfectionists, though, their dial is jammed on 11 all the time, and
Yeah.
they just burn out the engine.
That's a perfect summary.
Hmm.
We started this deep dive with that image of the grammar perfectionist, right?
Yep.
A prisoner in a cage they built themselves. Their world was small, it was anxious, defined by this constant fear of failure. And that pursuit of perfection, it didn't lead them to fluency. It led them towards silence. The grammar trap is honestly one of the most pervasive and damaging myths in language learning. It whispers this lie. If you can just be correct enough, then you will earn the right to be confident. But the truth, the reality we see in learners who break free is the complete reverse. You have to find the confidence, first, the confidence to be imperfect, to be messy, to be brave, to be human in order to get the experience. And it's that experience that leads to true, natural, effective communication. The new goal isn't flawless performance, it is fearless connection.
Fearless connection. I love that. And by embracing these 4 pillars, you talked about communicative competence, functional grammar, social appropriateness, logical flow, and that strategic resilience, you're not actually lowering your standards for yourself.
Not at all.
You're raising them. You're aspiring to something far greater than just a robotically correct sentence. You're aspiring to be a listener who truly understands, a speaker who genuinely connects, and, well, a person who can navigate that beautiful, messy, unpredictable dance of human interaction with grace and skill. So really, let go of the red pen, abandon that impossible quest for perfection, flood your mind with the sounds and stories of real English, like you said, create those safe sandboxes to play, to make mistakes, and crucially, to learn from them without shame. Focus on your message. Focus on your listener. Focus on connection. The path to becoming a confident, effective, and truly fluent communicator lies right there before you, and it's paved not with perfect grammar, but with the courage to simply be understood.